Well, hello and welcome to the PMQ live update for, I guess, what is today? Today is Wednesday, June 17th. I'm your host, Brian Hernandez, and today I'm here with somebody not of the pizza industry, but of the restaurant and hospitality industry, Mr. Tim Harnett of Western Reserve Distillers up in Lakewood, Ohio, I believe, correct?
That is correct, just west of Cleveland.
Awesome. So, yeah, you guys have kind of been hit hard by some of the current situations, facing our country from as far back as, February. But we wanted to talk a little bit about, this pivot is kind of hitting all parts of the industry, not just pizzerias, not just restaurants. So I wanted to talk to you about a little bit about your unique pivot and what you've been doing up there lately. And I have a whole big list of bullet points that I want to go through. So hopefully we'll get through most of them. But at this point, I just want to, Tim, go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and maybe go right into the very first change you did when the situation hit. Give you about 3-4 minutes to describe that for us.
Sure. So I wear a lot of hats here. My business card says Drinksmith, but I help get spirits into the area, come up with cocktail recipes, help run our in-house bars, at least to the degree that we can at the moment. Ordinarily, our distillery makes 100% certified organic spirits, including a couple of varieties of gin, a couple of vodkas, silver rum, and we are making our own whiskeys, but it's now a waiting game. They're upstairs in our rickhouse aging. We are getting all of our grains from a local source in West Salem, Ohio. Twin Parks Farm. He's been a certified organic farmer for about 30 years. So everything that we can get within 100 miles of ourselves, we do it. Now, knowing that we couldn't exactly sustain a whiskey supply outside of some stuff that we contract distilled about 6 years ago, we have entered some sourcing partnerships with other whiskey distillers and have been really careful to choose what we can get. So like really good single barrels that we approve of, things that are close to our mash bill, or, just things that are out of the ordinary, but, really highly regarded whiskeys. So even though we are not producing them, we have the final touch on what we choose and what we bottle under our name. So it's been a good arrangement. So we were chugging along with that. We're only a couple years old at this point. Then COVID hit. And so everybody kind of paused for a second and had to rethink, like, what are we going to do? And realizing that we made high-proof spirits, which would be a component of like the World Health Organization formula or the CDC formula for sanitizer, we decided to go ahead and start doing that. Cuyahoga County was the hardest hit county in the state. So we had a really immediate need here that could not be met. So we basically retrofitted a lot of equipment, brought in more people, and just kind of started making this formula ourselves. We took the unusual route of putting it in a gallon jug. It's the cheapest on the market right now. And the nice thing about this Center for Disease Control formula is that it's not going to be gooey and kind of gel-like because of what people are familiar with, but you can spray it on surfaces and clean them that way too. So it's
okay. Well, that's what I was going to ask, because I saw them when I was grocery shopping, and it was just very liquidy, and I'm like, I can't keep this in my car and pour it on my hands. Not having thought the first obvious answer, put it in a spray bottle. But I like how you said that you can actually, it can be for your hands, but also repurposed for surfaces as well.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people coming in were kind of expecting Purell, and actually a few came back and said, I think I got a defective bottle, and we'll just basically explain that there's only a little bit of glycerin in there to kind of take away the harsher drying effects.
Well, what is the alcohol content needed to actually become a sterilizing agent versus just really strong liquor? I mean, is it more? I know you see in the movies a lot of people, they'll just pour some liquor on their wounds in the movies, but it's probably not the best. But I mean, were there regulations given to you guys by the CDC?
Well, we were able to respond pretty rapidly. I think the government basically took away a lot of stopgaps for places that could produce it, just so we could, meet the demand for the whole country. I guess the misconception is that someone could grab a bottle of vodka and pour it on their hands and feel like they're sterilizing any kind of viruses, which they're not, because that's typically 40%, or I'm sorry, 40 proof, so 80%. Whereas we need to be up to around 160 proof, I believe. I think the minimum is somewhere around 130, low 130s. Before it's going to have that effect. So we're going for about 80% right now, with a little bit of glycerin to kind of take away that kind of harsh effect, and hydrogen peroxide.
Well, okay. So, I mean, everybody knows from their college and late high school years, Bacardi 151. Mm-hmm. Evil. I mean, you're talking about 160 proof, 80%. I mean, is that drinkable? I mean, and because it is alcohol, more or less, are there regulations on age limits on who can buy it in a grocery store?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the weird thing, because it's not that gel Purell stuff. It is a liquid. Was there any things like that going on?
Well, funny you should mention that. I mean, there was a timely change, at least in Ohio. I don't know how far across the nation this took effect, but distillers were basically granted the ability to make sanitizer with those high proof spirits, because in and of themselves, they are drinkable, but once you combine it with those other two components, it's not good for you at all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So apparently some teenagers started, not necessarily our product, because other Ohio distillers did this too. And there were some incidents where teenagers got in trouble. And so basically, ourselves included, the governor said, okay, you've got to switch over to denatured alcohol. So even though we were running our still, it's like 24/7 in the beginning, just to sustain that, now we are strictly using denatured.
Okay, what does denatured mean? Denatured alcohol? I'm not familiar.
I believe it's basically like isopropanol.
Okay.
Definitely not a household
beverage.
But yeah, so it's definitely like falls into a pharmaceutical category. But both of the formulas would have worked the same way. But this is now something that I think every distiller has to kind of sub that out now.
Well, and you just mentioned that it's at that point it becomes a kind of falls into the pharmaceutical category. Mm-hmm. Do you have to get any extra training or some pharmaceutical credentials? Because you guys were, making fine spirits and you were making them very well. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole different animal. I mean, they obviously gave you the guidelines and the recipe to use. But did you have to get licensed or certified in any way?
Yeah, we had to get specifically licensed for that product, and then develop labeling that met all of the criteria for the safety, all the warning against consumption, everything of that nature. So again, it was a nice rapid process, because I think everybody saw the need that could be met with some pretty relative ease, and honestly, it helped keep a lot of our people working. In fact, we went to basically 24/7 shifts for most of the week.
Well, and that's actually that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to be kind of my next question is that, well, this kind of ties in because you guys have an attached restaurant as well.
Correct.
And I think you had mentioned that you had, you tried initial to go or carry out like meals and stuff like that. It just didn't pan out for you, so you decided to kind of close down. Were you able to reallocate your staff from the restaurant side over to the distillery side? be it either in the distillery itself or just maybe even making the sanitizer?
Yes, we brought about, I think about half of the staff from the restaurant over to the distillery side, and they've continued to work there even today. So we're hoping to retain as many people as we can. We're carefully working towards reopening the space under all of the protocols, and the people that have stuck with us, we want to stick by them too.
Yeah. Well, and then another one, just real quick. And I did want to say, anybody who wants to ask a question, go ahead and type it in the Facebook comments, and Tim will answer them. But this video will live forever on Facebook. It'll also go to pmq.com. I believe it's /coronavirus still, but we're going to be changing that because I hate that name anyway. But and I did want to say, stick around because we're going to have a little bit of fun at the end too. He's going to teach us a nice, easy drink recipe we can all make at home, to encourage a little social distancing, maybe with friends or people who are safe versus all the hundreds of strangers you might meet in a bar. So stick around for that. Ask your questions in the comment section. I'll put them up. Tim will answer them. Your name will get on screen. You'll be famous. But I did want to say that also, since your restaurant had closed, the restaurant segment of your establishment, I know there's been other situations going on currently that had some unfortunate events. But I mean, I'm just talking about Society Lounge. So why don't you kind of expand on that? I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, so they've been good friends of ours ever since the beginning. In fact, Joseph Fredrickson, who runs Society, was literally our first on-premise account. He bought the very first bottle that we made as a bar. So he and his staff have been really supportive of us from day one. So they were just kind of gradually reopening, and honestly, they were really like benchmark level observation of all the new safety protocols. Like, I'm incredibly impressed with how well they handled that. So they reopened with obviously a fraction of their space, a fraction of their staff, and then all of a sudden the protests downtown Cleveland turned to riots. The front of the bar got smashed in, and all of a sudden it's back to square one. So it was really, really tragic on two levels for them. Because they're in the heart of downtown, they're in the main part of the entertainment district. So we reached out, we was like, hey, while you're rebuilding, our restaurant is now open and available. Did you want to run basically your cocktails under your name as a pop-up for as long as you need to restore your own location? And so we jumped on that, had it up and running within a week. And it's been great.
Well, and I like that because you said that now I guess are you still using some of your own staff? I think you've loaned them your sous chef, which actually helps your employees stay employed. And
so our good friend Earl, who's been here from the beginning, he was basically just below the main chef. Now he is the main chef, so we're working on having him as our chef and moving forward into whatever iteration this room becomes. I'm actually standing in the bar of the restaurant right now. Mm-hmm. So we've just kind of rapidly adapted to everything. We did have two bars in here, one where we did classes, and it was just kind of devoted to the distillery. Now that has become a gift shop, and the restaurant bar will now be the distillery bar.
Okay, and then that picture that I did just post up, I guess this is from that early pop-up right there. I like it, how it is pizza, and there is another one I want to show. But this is your chef working with Society Lounge using Western Reserve Distillers spirits, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I mean it's cooperation on multiple levels there, which is what we need right now. And I think we did have that little bit of a issue, where some people got angry, but I think it's under control, and I'm really glad people are putting their voices out there to affect change. But this is what comes of it, is the from that little bit of bad, the good nature in people. So it brings a tear to my eye, honestly, what you guys are able to do just to help who could, I don't want to say could potentially be a competitor, because they have a dine-in as well, or they have a restaurant menu as well. So we're all in this together. So
it's been really great. Just kind of as I guess sort of a pilot thing, if you might want to think of it that way, where it's giving us a really good idea how the space can work once the restoration downtown is finished and things kind of go back to semi-normal. So we're kind of getting a notion of how we can run things here.
Well, and I wanted to ask you real quick. I'm sorry, you caught me trying to find my notes. I can't see it behind this microphone. It's really hard. I have to move around a lot. But you guys, Ohio's kind of reopening. When did you say that it was May? Started about 2 or 3 weeks ago. To a smaller degree, Ohio started.
It was like mid-May, maybe May 21st. Okay.
So what kind of changes? Because you told me that you guys tried doing some takeout, carry out, family meals early on, something to that nature, but you realized it wasn't working. So let's focus on this. And you said you were trying to kind of reimagine your food program there. But as far as how many people can you serve? What capacity are you allowed? What are some of the changes that you've been making as far as trying to get your food program reopened as well?
Well, the space we have, it's not very large inside. We do have a very nice spacious patio, which has been kind of a luxurious thing for anybody in Ohio in order to reopen currently. Any space that's really small inside is just kind of stuck with carry out. Like the governor said, you can do, takeaway cocktails now and things like that, or, continue to sell carry out food. So a lot of places are doing that, but in terms of letting people in, that's not a great option for a lot of places, even now. So I think we are probably at an absolute maximum, about 50 between the interior and the patio.
Okay. Anything special on the inside that you did? I mean, I've been seeing pictures. I saw one today. People just put up the sheeted ghosts. I saw a place that put up mannequins to force that social distancing. Somebody said you can't sit there. I mean, what are you guys doing on that respect? Obviously, you've lost a lot of your space.
Yeah.
Because of that, but I mean, what are you doing to make sure that those imaginary lines don't get crossed?
So obviously being very watchful to begin with, but we took away pretty much all of the communal tables. We replaced them with small tables that are adequately spaced apart. Where we could, we put in like dividing curtains between these tables. Outside, again, it's a really ideal space to meet the confines of the current situation. And thankfully, the weather has been good for it so far. So hopefully that'll continue.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, yeah. Well, you put it out in the universe. So if it doesn't, that's your fault, Tim, and we're all going to blame you. But yeah, I mean, everybody has to pivot. So, I mean, these are similar things that other people are doing. It's just, how can you be creative about it and maximize what little space some people have left, honestly. Some people didn't have that much space to begin with. So, now, as far as, I mean, I guess your main pull and attraction for customers is your alcohol and your spirits. When it first shut down, when there was no inside allowed, were you guys already allowed to do curbside, or not even curbside, but like delivery for alcohol? Some places you could do that, but what kind of changes were made as far as like the selling of alcohol for bars and people such as yourself over there?
Well, our governor was a good example of, number one, being probably one of the leaders in the safety responses across the country. And they were pretty quick to adopt to the situation to let smaller independent places at least do something to survive in the interim. So little by little, things have kind of gradually opened up. Like first it was like, okay, so you can sell a spirit to go, and here's your cocktail components to go with it. then it was like, okay, go ahead and do your pre-batch cocktails and sell that to go.
Really? So like a fully mixed cocktail drink, you can sell that? Okay.
There are some weird kind of restrictions around it, like someone has to come to us and be on our property in order to take anything like that from us. Mm-hmm. If we were to go to our front patio to someone parked out front and pass it over the sidewalk, that's illegal. So we can't do that at the moment. They are strongly discussing a home delivery system where we would be able to actually take online orders and then take things to people's homes, both the spirits, cocktails, the sanitizer, everything. So we're obviously rallying for that. The other distillers in the state are pushing for it too. So we're just kind of waiting on that to materialize. I'm personally thinking it'll happen.
Okay, so you're saying that you can technically, and Eric Bam showed up. He says, "Hey guys, thank you, Eric." And I see your question. I'll get to that in a second. But you were saying that they could do takeout alcohol, but you couldn't do curbside because once you left the threshold of your store, that was quote unquote illegal. That was
So our curbside is someone driving into our parking lot. So we can, as long as we are on our property, we can take things outside to people's cars and and they can just pop their trunk and we can put things in and whatever people feel safe with, we're doing everything we can to accommodate that.
I think I did misunderstand. I missed that. I was looking for a nice picture of some of your products.
It's like if we were to cross onto a public sidewalk to do that, then it's
gotcha. Yeah. And you're still trying to develop like delivery for alcohol. I think you said you developed or developing online ordering for alcohol. This is just my notes, so I might have used the incorrect term or tense, but that's what you just said at the end. Is you guys, the governor's still, everything's still getting hashed out so that you guys can actually deliver the product.
Right.
Okay. All right. So Eric wants to know, is it only bottled or cans? I mean, so I assume that, your pre-mixed cocktails aren't coming in bottles or cans, or are you bottling and canning that stuff, or are you just putting in a cup with a lid?
Right now, we're basically focusing on kits where you get the components like craft tonics, craft syrups, things like that. We're currently working on building cocktails that we feel are good and worthwhile to make, that are unique to us and complement the spirits. So that's kind of the next stage for the whole online portal.
Okay.
But in the meantime, people can come here, pick our brains about what we feel pairs well with what. We're trying to develop a lot of different things at the moment just to keep everybody happy and
Well, and it makes sense that you can give them the components, but you don't want to give them the final thing. It's the same reason you can.
It's in the works. It's a work in progress.
There are already several, alcohol laws as far as like buying ice or cold beverages at a certain place and things like that. So, all right. Well, it sounds like you guys, do you think that these things are going to stay after the fact? After everything's kind of, I don't want to say gone back to normal, but gone
honestly
to the new normal?
Yeah. As long as things are good in the eyes of the Ohio government, I see no reason that we would stop. Obviously right now it's just kind of a response to the current conditions, but it would be great to kind of keep that going.
Well, yeah, and it's obviously I want to say is that something that you would want to keep going, but that's a silly question because of course you. I just wanted to kind of get your finger on the pulse of, do you think that the government's gonna, like you said, it's not a knee-jerk reaction, but it's a situational reaction. To what's going on right now, and then once it's done, would they revoke any of that, or would they see? That's something that can help. It definitely help the economy, increase sales, and then which increases taxes on said products, which the government gets. I don't know. This is why you make pizza, man. It's just too much for me to think about.
Yeah, and I do hope things kind of stay this way once things normalize. Ohio is not the easiest state to be in the spirits industry, and let's just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, well, Amanda Sorella says she's tried many of your spirits at the bars and she loves them. Can you purchase your favorites at your location during the social house events? I don't know what a social house event is. Maybe you can explain that.
Yeah. So the Society Lounge pop-up. Yes, actually, you can come in any time of day and buy our spirits pretty much Monday through Saturday. We've always had people here at least through the evening running the gift shop bar. So if you come in at, like, whether you come in for the society event or not, you can definitely pick up spirits here.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we got a couple more things, and I did promise you guys we're going to have a little bit of fun here at the end. But before that, I want to ask Tim a little bit about, he had mentioned that you guys do organic spirits. How did you put that?
Well, so the long story short on that is that it's
organic, handcrafted, and family owned.
Yeah, no GMO ingredients and nothing that's been in contact with pesticides. So that there's basically a lot more regulatory oversight with that. So it's kind of another added hurdle, but it definitely does have a positive impact on the flavor of the final spirit. And it's also supporting local organic farmers. So we're very proud about that. Actually, a lot of the grains that we use in the process go back to the farm. They're used for livestock feed or compost programs. So it's we do as much as we can to have a zero footprint. Now, the interesting thing that I like to tell people about as far as whiskey goes, there are a decent number of organic distillers in the U.S., but very few that do organic certified whiskey, because there's another added hurdle with that where you have to have organic certified barrels. So I don't know how they do this, but the cooperage somehow proves that the trees from which those barrels were made have not come in contact with pesticide for 50 years or longer.
Wow.
So there's only a couple of them in the country that do that. And yeah, so again, everything that comes in contact with that spirit has to be organic.
Well, I can imagine there's only a couple of companies that do that. That sounds damn hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So it's, overall more healthy alcohol for you, but also, like you said, it does affect the flavor and getting that, just the natural organic stuff. Handcrafted things and home-owned, people take more care if they're not a giant conglomeration. If it's a home business, they have more care in their product or love for their product and pride in it. But you had mentioned earlier that you guys do get some other whiskeys from other places, and you do serve those as well. Is it common for distillers to kind of enter into maybe sourcing partnerships with other distillers? Is it a common place for you guys to promote each other's brands?
For smaller distilleries that, clearly in order to get off the ground, you have to start with spirits that aren't aged. But if you want to have an aged spirit under your brand, that's a waiting game. You have to have stuff in a barrel. At least on our end, we're looking at least 4 years until we feel it's worth bottling. So it's a very commonplace thing for places of our scale to reach out to another distiller that we respect and feel we can pick a quality spirit and bring it in under our brand. And we've been pretty fortunate in the search for really distinctive barrels that we're really proud to put our name on.
Well, and you got to have, again, you still have to have that pride of something that you're going to be backing, because it does reflect upon you in the end. So and again, we're trying to pick. Whenever we can, we're trying to pick spirits that have a very close mash bill to our whiskeys. So we feel like it's kind of a good representation of what our stuff would taste like at that kind of age statement, whether it be, 8 years. Yeah.
15,
All right. Well, I definitely like the design of the bottle too. I was telling you earlier, I don't know. I just like it. Just it's round, it's sleek, it's smooth.
It's very clever. I have always liked it from a bartender perspective because, no matter how you pour, you can hold the neck properly.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Just with the shape of the belly, let's call it, does that create the gulp, which might splash, or is it a smooth pour from a bottle that shape?
Yeah, it's got that ergonomy to it. And no slight against Hendrix or anything, but trying to pour a bottle of Hendrix, it's like trying to pour out of a coffee can. It's kind of silly. Great spirit, but from a bartender perspective, the design is.
Well, it's good. It's you need to have all eyes on from all aspects of the actual job to to actually serving up to producing and branding. So looks great. So guys, I promised. Here we go. We got some people here. You guys decided to start creating some quarantine cocktails, focusing on the home build without a lot of ingredients or tools needed. So you could just go buy a couple bottles, something simple. You might have to get some lime juice, lemons, or something simple, but it's not going to be a 15-step process. And I guess you have clickable links on how to get these, on how to make them and how they taste. Is that something on the website or? So
this is something we're building. We're trying to focus on the syrup producers that we selected and brought in. We're working closely with a lot of Fever Tree sodas at the moment. So literally today we were doing some photography for the combinations you can build on your own right now. And eventually the end goal is to have like a card that explains the recipe, the flavor components, and then that card will be online, and we'll have physical cards here, but they will also have links where you can just get a demonstration on how to make that particular drink.
All right, and this all kind of came out of the pivot that you had to do for in-home people having to stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well that's nice. Wow, they got a lot of just mixers and okay. Mm-hmm. So without all right, Fever Tree, I expect that check in the mail. Thank you. But without further ado, I guess let's just get into making that cocktail. That we got some people watching here. What are we gonna make? And I will put up. I do have a link for a recipe that's similar to what you're gonna be doing. But why don't you demonstrate it? And again, he is working from a laptop, so he's going to be holding up the drinks in front of him and mixing it that way so he can see. I'll let you take it away, Tim. Go ahead.
All right. Give me a wave if the audio gets a little fuzzy because I have to step back a bit.
Just project to the back of the room.
Okay. We've done a lot of classes here, and being a teacher for the mixology class, probably on a weekly basis, I would get the question over and over again, what is your favorite cocktail? And for the longest time, I just waffled on answering that. It's like, you have to pick your mood for your spirit, and there was just so much going on. And then it finally struck me. In my book, the perfect drink is the 1944 Trader Vic Mai Tai. So tiki cocktails are really kind of what got me into this industry. And obviously from there I went to, cocktails of all different times and places. But that's always been my first love. We make a really fantastic rum here, so that made that a lot easier. So the other thing about that drink that is really ideal is you can change the spirit component, and it practically works every time. I've tried about 5-6 different iterations of it. So the historical Mai Tai was always rum. But since then, with the help of my good friends at the local tiki bar, I've actually tried some different spirits, including rye. So that would be called the Rye Tai. Gin makes a great Mai Tai. Especially if you split up that base spirit between like London Dry and an Old Tom style gin, like blending a couple of different producers or styles of the same spirit. And actually tequila makes a really fantastic Mai Tai.
All right. Well, that's interesting. I never would have thought you could be able to it would be that versatile as far as, like you said, changing that base spirit. So I put it up here. So as soon as you start demonstrating, I'll take down this recipe. But this is the one that you said works really well. It is a clickable link in the comments as well. So you guys can go here, but it's also streaming at the bottom right there. So, all right, Tim, it's all you, my friend.
All right. Cool. So we're going to go with something very close to the historical build. It typically calls for 2 different kinds of rum. Personally, I'm going to actually use our silver rum as part of that. It's just 1 ounce of each kind of rums, whichever you choose. I believe if you go back to the original...
Go ahead and show us the rum. We can't see it.
Okay. So this is batch number 2. Number 2 and 3, we actually started putting into whiskey barrels and letting them age for a few months. So it would gain a little more complexity, and then we would filter it just so it kind of takes out that color and gives you a silver rum again. So I'm really, really proud of this rum. It's just extremely flavorful for a silver rum. It actually beat out Diplomatico Planus in the cigar and spirits competition. And it's got nothing else in it except organic molasses.
All right. So that's still your silver rum. What's the second rum you said you were
well, we are eventually going to have an aged rum that we let sit in a barrel for a number of years. That's another thing on the to-do list. In the interim, I'm just going to sub in Plantation. This is actually their overproof, which is part of the original Mai Tai recipe.
Okay, and these are an ounce each of 2 different rums.
Yep.
Okay.
And then regardless of what recipe you're going with, you're going to need an orange liqueur of some kind. The real strict tiki files will go with dry orange curacao. This is actually part of the same company that makes the Plantation. So you just need a half an ounce of that, but it's pretty interchangeable. You can do...
Is that the orgeat syrup that's on this recipe?
This is the dry orange curacao. So they might put Grand Marnier or something in there, or Cointreau. Any of those things will work as long as you get a little bit of that orange spirit component.
Right. Okay.
And then, yes, the orgeat. So this is basically an almond syrup with some rose water. It's very, very classic component in the tiki world. There are good producers you can get. I wouldn't, get the cheap stuff like the Finest Call because it's got, high fructose corn syrup. Just go with a good producer. You can make it yourself, although it's a little messy. I'll say.
Yeah, I just saw that. I'll put that in the comments too, guys. All clickable links. All right. So but that's orgeat syrup was not the orange component you were talking about. So you got to find that orange flavor. All right. Yeah,
so
continue, sir.
But most orange spirits will work. Like Patron Citron just is fine. As long as you get a good orange spirit. Even triple sec will work in a pinch. I wouldn't go that way personally, but it'll work. So this is the orgeat. And again, this is just a personal preference. I really love orgeat. So instead of doing a little bit of simple syrup and orgeat, I just double the orgeat component. It still gives the sweetness and a little more almond. And then just your fresh lime juice. So that it also takes away a step. You're back down to 5 ingredients instead of 6.
Okay. Now I see you have to add all the ingredients to a cocktail shaker. You're going to give us you're going to give us a good show here. I better see a smile. I watch a lot of, Bar Rescue. I've interviewed John Taffers several times.
Oh, have you?
Oh yeah. He's not as mean in person as he is on TV, but I better see some some motion there. Okay.
Did you tell him that mezcal's not made out of mescaline?
I did not.
Yeah, actually, okay. Anyway, okay. All right. So yes, you're going to want to give it a good brisk bake, 20, 30 seconds, depending on how tense your ice is.
You can hear the ice kind of not dissipating, but melting a little bit. That was the loudest shake I've ever heard in my life, just because of the microphones.
Well,
my Lord.
This is what bartenders call tin on tin. So we're using this instead of a shaker pint glass, which is quieter. Okay. But it's just personal preference.
Okay.
There we go.
Why is it your personal preferences? What changes about it?
It's a little less heavy. I mean, there are advantages to using a glass. You can actually see what you're shaking. It's all kind of based on feel and temperature and time.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this just makes a better seal. It won't break. Last forever.
Nice.
Most cocktail bartenders tend to go with tin on tin. And then really honestly, in my opinion, the most important aspect of a Mai Tai is fresh mint. It gives it such a great aromatic. It feels naked without it. So that is what your classic Mai Tai should look like. The 1944 recipe.
Hold it back up, my friend. All right, very good. So it goes in a rocks glass.
There are like bigger old-fashioned glasses that are specifically made for Mai Tais, but this will work fine. If you go to like a Chinese restaurant and they have it on the menu, chances are you're going to get some pink, disgusting thing in a big pint glass. No, it's not the same. Well, you just got to be careful about your recipes when you order a Mai Tai wherever you go.
Well, and I mean, you can buy these things. You see them on the end caps at Walmart, the martini sets where you get the shakers. It looks like it's just about 4 ounces of liquid with your ice, and then they garnish them in. And if you do it correctly, it should pour into that glass without spilling over. It should get right to the top, and just be perfect every time, right?
That is correct.
All right. So, you garnish with the fresh mint and a lime if you fancy that. You can also, that's interesting. You can also float some dark rum on the top of the cocktail. So it kind of gets that little bit of layer, just the coloration. But
yeah, it gives it a little more kick too. When we were running the restaurant here, we would do like a Smith & Cross float on the top. Pretty flavorful, pungent pot still rum from Jamaica. Also Navy strength, so it's pretty relaxing.
Would you say Navy strength?
Yeah, so it's not quite overproof. It's not 40 proof. It's this goes back to like the old British Navy where they would kind of determine proof with gunpowder. I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here. It's usually like a Navy strength would be about 57 to 60% thereabout.
No, that's great. I'd never heard that term before, so I was interested in I assumed it had something to do with that. But
that's
you'll
see it on rum and gin bottles a lot because British Navy kind of had their hooks in that stuff back in the day.
So if people want to kind of get this recipe from you guys directly, what's the best email or contact information? Can they just leave a message on the Western Reserve Facebook or the contact?
Actually, anyone can email me direct. It's really simple. It's just tim@westernreservedistillers.com. And I'll be happy to oblige.
All right. So you hear that here, folks. The mixologist master himself, or distiller master, I don't know. Guy who wears a lot of hats. He's going to answer all your questions personally. So you can reach out I put that out there, man. Now it's out on the interwebs, so you're probably going to get a lot of fan mail now. So, but hey, man, I really do appreciate this. Any more comments or questions? Go ahead and please put them up here real quick. We're getting ready to, sign off here. We do appreciate everybody watching. That was great. It was a very simple recipe. You just had to have a few spirits, but I mean, it doesn't take a lot of tools and stuff like that. I've been this close to buying that martini shaker for a while now. I might go to Walmart and get one right now. So my
advice, I do have some advice on that. So even if you have to get a shaker or pint glass, go with this style. If you get that iconic Mad Men kind of design that's called the cobbler shaker, unless you're spending a lot of money on a really nicely made design, it's gonna, number one, it will leak while you shake it. and then you won't be able to separate the top from the bottom. So it's yeah, unless you're going on Cocktail Kingdom and spending about $50 on it, it's typically not going to work well.
So it'd be the this is what the cobbler shaker is then.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's a little more rounded, bullet shaped. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So the only kind of benefit of that is it has your strainer built in, whereas this one you need to have what you call a Hawthorne strainer, and it just fits on the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, most of the time they're selling that with them anyway, as I said.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, that's a great tip. I love that too. Thank you very much. I might have gone with that for sheer looks. That makes it look a lot more classy.
Yeah.
But classy and functionality don't always meet in the middle. So
very true.
All right, Tim. Well, what's one last? I always try to do this with a best piece of advice. Well, usually for pizzerias, but for anybody out there who have a bar restaurant concept, what's the best piece of advice you can give them right now? And then I need a positive affirmation from you after that. So 2 more things real quick. So best piece of advice.
Wow. So I think I'm just going to give the advice that we try to follow as much as we can, is to go local as much as possible. I'm not going to lie. Local doesn't always mean good. I'm saying, test things out in the field, taste different distillers' products and see what fits for you, fits your bar program. But whenever you can go local, do it, because it benefits everyone in your area, not just the businesses, but the tax base and everything. It's just a good thing to do.
Well, and here's you even mentioning that right now. I mean, obviously going local is you want to support your fellow independent establishments. And I'm surprised this wasn't the first question I asked you, but I'm glad I'm thinking about it now. As far as like, you do have that food program and the bar, the bar program and distiller. Do you come up with food matches for your cocktail? Do you come up with cocktails that are supposed to be paired with certain dishes? Do you do a lot of that stuff, like parties of pairing parties or anything like that? Or,
yes.
Or are they kind of separate entities that just meet in the middle?
No, that's a really good question. There's actually a book on the market that's called the Flavor Bible, and it's actually aimed towards chefs, but craft cocktail people really adhere to it as well for the exact same reasons. Chef Stew, it's like it gives you, what do they call it? Just basically flavor pairings that work most ideally. Flavor affinities is what they call it.
Okay.
So if we have something coming up where we're doing a specific kind of food, we will try to pair that up. Like we will actually have a food truck out here next week doing gourmet burgers. And so all the drinks we're doing were basically paired up with those different options that the food truck's going to offer, using that book as a guide. So anyone who's a budding mixologist, I can't recommend that book enough.
Okay, and it's actually
get it free from the library.
Yeah.
And there is a vegetarian version too.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I have heard of it before. I think some of the pizza guys were talking about that as well. Some of the other, they have a pizzeria that does also have maybe a craft brew segment of their business as well. So, all right, that's great. Like I might have to edit this and put that at the front for people to watch it after the fact. But great answer. I do appreciate that. So one positive affirmation for everybody, no matter who they are, about this right now. Let's, what is your message to the world, Tim?
Well, I just want to stress to everyone that things like the face masks that we're personally trying to push ourselves, all those things are not just to protect you, they're meant to protect your fellow human beings. So I've seen a lot of things where, a good portion of the people in the area are really doing their part to protect each other, whereas others are not. So I really want to put out there, like, think of your fellow human beings right now. Don't just protect yourself. Do everything you can to keep everyone in your own community safe. It just makes sense.
Well, and I get that too. It's uncomfortable for everybody, but it's not just about us. We have to be. This is the time where we can't be selfish.
Yeah.
So I it's a great message, man. I do appreciate.
And
it.
you can get masks that match your personality. So.
Yeah. My girlfriend sent me a Darth Vader one. It's not a Darth Vader mask. I already have that. I already own that, obviously, because I'm a Star Wars nerd. But it was yeah, definitely a cloth mask with Darth Vader on it, and I wear that thing everywhere. I was having a hard time finding ones that fit. I oddly enough bought a couple at Kroger, and they were made in China, but they were really small. My head's a lot bigger than the average person, unfortunately.
Yeah, for our production floor, we had we got the N95 masks, and they were from China. I just thought that's kind of ironic.
It's ironic, but I mean, they served the purpose and they worked. Just unfortunately, they weren't big enough for my giant egg-shaped head. So yeah, but I agree. It's not just for you. It's less about you and more about everybody else around you, people you love, people you work with, people you care about, and just stopping the spread of it. Yes, there is a lot of personal protection in that being covered from it. So. Again, is another rabbit hole I really don't like to go down, but I mean it's a great point. Obviously, it's not about you; it's about us. That's the message I think people should need to take back from that. And so, everybody, please go out and check out Western Reserve Distillers. You can check them out on their Facebook. You can check them out just at their website, westernreservedistillers.com. They're really easy to find. I think there was one that had like /India on it, but I'm pretty sure that's not you guys. So make sure you get the right one from Lakewood, Ohio. But and also I've got the email up there again, Tim at westernreservedistillers.com. And Tim has put himself out there. Says anybody who has any questions, reach out to him. If you got questions about operations, you got questions about drink recipes, you got questions about what his favorite color is. I think he's pretty open. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tim, thank you so much for your time. I know this again was super last minute. We're trying to get back ahead of schedule, but I do appreciate your time. I appreciate the information. It's fun to kind of step outside of the realm of just not even just pizza, but just the chaos of what has been happening to us. So just have a little fun.
Yeah. No, thank you for reaching out and for hosting. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, I'm going to go get some of those tumblers real quick as soon as I leave here, man. All right, Tim, thank you for everybody watching. Thank you for your questions. If you've commented on our personal Facebooks, we will try to answer those. They don't actually pop up here, so I couldn't post them. But we'll get back to you guys. And until then, you guys stay safe and you stay sane. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.